Hi, here we are to talk about CSS. Okay, so this will just be a first, introduction to CSS. So right here I have a web page, and it's just a simple HTML document with some tags and some markup, and this is what it looks like in the browser. Okay, so it looks like this. It's got a title, it's got some text, there's a block quote here, some other text there, there's a picture, and then there's a list, okay? And what I want to do is I want to style it. And there's so many CSS styles, we won't even be able to talk about them, even in general terms. So I'm going to just pick out a few of the many styles and apply them to this page. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to decide where can we put the styles, right? Okay. So you can put styles in one of three places. You can link them with a style sheet. Here I have a link tag that will link. I'll actually rewrite that, but we can link it to a style sheet. We can also write a style into the page like this by writing it into the style tag. So everything in here will be written in the CSS language and applied to this page. The third place you can put a style is you can put it into a tag itself. So you can use the style attribute and you can write CSS inside here, okay? Out of those three methods, linking to a file is your best choice, okay, for most circumstances, okay? So let's do that. I'll do Command N to make a new file. So this is just a new plain text file. I'll save this plain text file into the folder with my HTML file. So this index.html is the file we were just looking at here. And I'll call this file style.css. You can actually call it anything you want, anything.css. Let's go with style. That makes more sense. But and make sure it has the .css extension. So having the .css extension, notifies the browser that this is a CSS file. So let's save that into our folder. So there it is. And we'll link it now to our HTML document. So there's a couple ways you can do this. Probably the most common way to do it is to use the link tag inside the head of your document. Okay, so I'll put the link tag here. And the link tag is going to require that we use two attributes. One of them is called rel, okay? And then we can set this value to, and you can see there's a whole bunch of choices here on the list, and the one we want to use is style sheet. And you can actually just type rel equals, quote, style sheet in there. And what this does is it tells the browser that the file that we're linking to here is a style sheet. Okay, so it should be written in the CSS language. And then what we'll do is we'll type href, and the href says, this is the address to this file that we're linking to, okay? So we'll do href. I'm using brackets, and brackets will give me a list of files that are in the folder. Like you can kind of use this to find the file, and this is the one that I want there, so I'll just click on it. You can just type it in there also. So you could just type this out, href equals, quote, style.css. And then we'll close the link tag with the bracket, and this is the complete link tag. There's no closing tag. Okay, so now our style sheet is linked. Easy, right? Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to switch over to my style.css, and in here we can start typing our styles. Okay, so there's a couple things that we need to do to understand how to write the CSS language. Okay, so every style rule that you create is made up of two elements. Okay, there's a selector and then a declaration. Okay, so the declaration goes inside the square or the curly brackets like this, right? And the selector here can be a whole bunch of things. There's all sorts of things you can use for selectors, and I'll go over selectors in detail in a little bit. But the selector essentially points to an element on the page that you want to style. So in this case, my selector is pointing to the body tag. So I'm going to write some rules that or some properties inside the rule here that apply to the body tag. So here's the body tag is my selector. I'm selecting the body tag. I got a declaration here, and inside the declaration, what we do is we write properties and values. So one of the properties is called background color. background dash color, all lowercase. And then we can put a color in here. I'm going to talk a little more about colors later, but essentially the colors start with the number sign, and then you can type in a value. The first two values are the amount of red, the second two are the amount of green, and the next two are the amount of blue. So if I wanted to make the background color red, this value is actually a number from 0 to 255. You can see actually the brackets is showing me that that represents the color black. If I made this one like, FF, right? Brackets would show me that that's the color red because this is a full value of red. So FF is actually 255. So each one of these digits right here is the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it continues A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so it's kind of like base 16 or something, right? Okay, so if you want to add some other colors here, I could say, 3, 4, 2, and then this is like, I guess it's still kind of red. What if I make that one? I guess I can't do R. Let's do E. And I put uppercase F's there. You can do it all lowercase is probably better, right? As a habit. Oh, that's kind of a yellow, right? Let's take out some of the red, make that 6. And we should change this to like, let's make it like a gray, right? So if I make it, all the same digits, that's black. If I do FF, that's white. If I do, let's say, D, that's going to be gray. Okay, let's do that. So I'll save the gray right there. Now watch what happens when I go to the browser and I refresh it. The background color is now gray, right? Let's try changing the font. Okay, I'll go back over these colors later. So the color method there, and actually you could also, I'll write a CSS comment here. This color, since the Ds are all the same, we can actually do D for the first two Ds, D for the second two Ds, and one more D for the third or the fifth and sixth D, right? So this is the equivalent of this one. So if the two digits are the same, you can just write one character for them, right? Okay, so anyway, we'll come back to that, right? Let's talk about the font now. So, I like this font, but I don't like it that much. I'd rather have a different font. I want to use Helvetica. So I'm going to type in font, family, and then I'll type in Helvetica like this. And then now when I refresh my page, and I'll have to save my CSS file. If I don't save this when I refresh the page, it's not going to read the information in this file or in the browser or in the editor here because it hasn't been saved to the file, right? So I'll refresh it, and now we have Helvetica, right? Let's do a little bit more. So I like that, but maybe the font is a little too small for me. Let's do font. Guess what? We got font size, right? Why don't we set this to 18 pixels, okay? And then I'll refresh. Oh, look, the font gets a little bit larger. I like that, but the line space between the lines here is a little too tight. It makes the type hard to read. So maybe I'll go back in here and I'll type in, line height of, and I could type in, let's say, I don't know, 27 pixels. That's like half of 18. Plus 18, right? So 9 plus 18 is 27, right? And then it would look like this, right? So that kind of is easier to read, right? So my line height is essentially 1.5 times the size of the characters, right? So actually, just for a side note here, and we can come back and talk more about this later, but when you set CSS properties that require a number, usually you have to include a unit. And CSS has a whole bunch of units that you can include, and they can be pixels, points, ems, millimeters, centimeters, inches. I don't know if they allow miles, right? But they have a whole bunch of units that you can use, okay? Percent is also a unit that you can use in some places, okay? And there's a few more units. I'm going to use a special unit here called the M, and the M is based on the size of the character, Okay, so if this is 18 pixels, but I wanted the line height to be based off of the 18, I could make it 1.5 em, right? So that would be 1.5 times the size of the character, right? And essentially it's the same size, right? But this is kind of nicer because if I change the size here, then I don't have to change the line height here because it will be 1.5 times, you know, an em, which is the size of the font, right? Okay, we'll talk more about ems later, but that'll get you started there. So there's a quick view of units, right? So anyway, there's a quick overview of the whole CSS thing. I mean, obviously, you know, we want to do more with this, but that's kind of just basically the whole thing in a nutshell. You know, just for fun, why don't we do this? Let's play with the font right here on the title. So if you recall, the title right there is this H1, right? So I've got an H1, and if I set the style for that, I can type in the tag name and then type in, you know, font size of, you know, 36 pixels, right? Let's save that, and then maybe we'll do color is, let's make it like a lighter gray, not instead of black. Let's make it like, how about, remember, like 000 is going to be black, so we could make it like 333, so it'll be kind of a dark gray. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see the dark gray there. Why don't we make it a little bit lighter, 666, right? Okay. Oh, there we go, right? So there's 36 points, right? So that should be twice the size of the font down here, right? You know, and again, right there, I use the selector, and in this case, the selector is the H1 tag, right? And here is the body tag. Now, this 36 pixels, since the H1 appears inside of, it's a descendant, we could say, of the body tag, right? That means the body is setting the base font for the entire document, and everybody, all the tags, I should say, are inheriting the size and the font styles from the body tag. They inherit it. They you know, they ask, hey, what size should we be? And, you know, they look up the chain, and the body tag is at the very top, and we set the size to 18 points. Right? So if I wanted this to be based off the body font size, what I could do here is I could say, well, why don't we make this, you know, 2em, right? Because 2em is going to be 2 times the 18 pixels here that I said, right? So we'll do that, and then this is the same size, right? So anyway, so that kind of gets you started. I'll talk more about some other things in the next video, but that was just a short one just to help you set stuff up. So here's our style sheet. You're going to link to your style sheet with the link. You have to include rel style sheet and then href and the name of your file, that your style sheet file, right? Okay. And then once you've done that, you can start writing rules in your style sheet, right? And your style sheet rule has a selector, which is the name of, in our case, it's the name of the tag. You can put a lot of different things here. There's different ways to select stuff, but this is the simple tag selector. And then it's got a body or a declaration here, which is the curly braces. And then inside the curly braces, you have a property followed by the colon, and then a value for that property and a semicolon. Okay, and that's how you write a rule. And if you want to write another rule, you write it like this: new property, colon, you know, value, comma, property, colon, value, comma, right? And it's the same thing all the way down. And then if you want to start a new rule for a new style property, you can say, you know, new selector, declaration, and then set the properties, okay? So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that that is a good explanation and gets you started with your style sheets.